Hey guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Abkarian. I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends and we talk about dads. Hi. Hope your week is going well. I think I got a spider bite on my toe. I don't know what it is. It's been bugging me. It's kind of swollen. I don't know. Hopefully that's okay. I don't have insurance. That's a problem. Yeah. Oh well. But other than that, I'm doing well. And just got done with a great run of shows. And I told you guys last week. I know I told you I was going to be releasing my episode with Theo Manhattan this week, but I changed it up a little bit on ya. Just called an audible at the last second. And my friend Sovereign Syre was in town this weekend, and she was up here visiting her dad because this is where her dad lives. She lives in L.A. And so she hopped on one of our shows. She hopped on our Saturday show, and she did a great job. And we talk a little bit about that on the episode today. And she's been a big cheerleader for me personally in my comedy, and she's kind of believed in me at times that I haven't believed in myself, and she's offered a lot of really encouraging words. The story I always like to tell, just right off the top here, I'll tell you, if you're not familiar with Sovereign, she is an adult film actress in addition to being a comedian, and she was in town. She gave me the best comedy advice. A while back. She was in town and we met for lunch, and we're at lunch and we're talking about performing on stage as comedians, and we were talking about how much bombing kind of sucks as a comedian. And she was like, Dave, you can bomb as a porn star as well. And I was like, what are you talking about? She says, yeah, sometimes you come off a shoot and you feel like you bombed the shoot. And, maybe the chemistry between you and the other actor is off, or maybe the director's all coked up, or maybe you were just feeling like bloated that day or whatever. And she says, it feels just like bombing on stage as a comedian, but worse. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, because Dave, no matter how badly you do on stage as a comedian, no one's going to see your butthole. Yeah. And that's some great perspective on what I do. No matter how badly I do, no one's going to see my butthole. And those are words I hold near and dear to my heart as a performer. Anytime I'm getting nervous on stage, just repeat that to myself. So I love her. She's so funny. She's so smart. She's probably one of the smartest people I know. And we opened this episode. Sovereign and I both like coffee, as it turns out. And we recorded it real early in the morning. And episode opens with me actually making her a cup of coffee. So you can hear that. And you can hear we both just get super chatty in this episode, which is, I normally hate it when I'm super chatty on the podcast, but she is every bit as chatty as me. So it's kind of a wild episode in that regard. There's kind of a fun revelation about midway through the episode too, about who her dad is to me, which is actually pretty cool. And I think we just need to just jump into all of that, guys. So here we go. This is Sovereign Syre, and I will catch you on the other side of this thing.
Do you have coffee?
Yeah.
That's what the material I've been doing is like, I mean that when I'm like, oh, she's dying at the end of every fucking joke. Like that frustration is real.
It was so
that
funny. I think you called it out in your joke, like within your joke last night, where you made a joke about having an abortion, and then people were like on board, and then you mentioned your dog dying, and people were like, whoa.
And I was like, you can do anything in a joke but kill a dog.
That's That's so funny.
Yeah, well, because I like, and that's why I order it that way. So it's like, I'm gonna make an abortion joke, let them laugh at that, then talk about killing her.
Yeah.
Let them be like, no, and then be like, see, like,
Yeah.
because just like Anthony Jeselnik said, he's like, you can do anything but kill a puppy in a joke, and I'm like, hold my beer.
That's funny. Yeah.
Hold my euthanasia.
Yeah, that's. Do you take like creamer or anything?
Yeah, cream and sugar.
Cool.
Or equal or whatever.
Yeah, I got this hazelnut.
That works.
I'll make a fresh pot too. This is just left over from last night. I made some coffee.
How's comedy going?
Pretty good. We've got like 5 shows going right now.
That's great. That's a lot of stage time for you.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that's the reason we fucking do it.
I mean, that's vital. Yeah, to be
Yeah.
getting like 10 minutes a night,
Yeah, for
like
sure.
4 nights a week is like gonna make you so strong.
Yeah, and it's a lot of like cold openings like I did last night, you know, and it's I was like because you had said that it had been a while since you had performed, so I was like, okay, like up front I'll just do some like B material. I won't go like too hard. I don't want to make it hard for her. But then you went up and you fucking killed, and then I felt stupid.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. You had a fucking
That was surprising to me because like most of that was new material.
Yeah,
Like
I was like, God damn it! I just fucking like intentionally bombed for no fucking reason. You were fine. You were great. I was like, I look like such a jackass right
well,
now.
it's the thing where it's like I hadn't gone up for a while, and then it's like Greg and Quincy were there, and I'm like, shit. These are guys that haven't ever seen me do actual comedy. I'm still the porn girl that does stand up, so like I have to go in and fucking nail it.
You
Like
hard.
I was like.
It was so good, and I was like, I'm sitting in the back, and I'm like, God damn it! I should have just done my fucking regular set with my regular closer, and everything would have been fine. And now I'm an idiot, and so I was like, whatever, it's fine.
Oh, it was fun. I mean, like I did better than I thought I would, but that was, I mean, all of that was new. I was just like, let's see what happens. Like, let's just do Coco. Let's just start there. Let's see what's like.
I was so irritated. Not with you, but with myself. I should have just like had faith in you, and God damn it, that's so dumb. But yeah, I did do. There was one that I did last night that was brand new. It was like, it was totally. I mean, I had this fucking dream. The other night, like I was home and I passed out on the couch and I've been watching this. I like comic books, but I can't really afford comic books. Uh-huh. So there's this like YouTube channel where this guy just like kind of goes like page by page over like several comic books and just kind of like explains it and it's good like background whatever, you know. And I fell asleep to this channel and I had this dream about. It was this weird like it was like a comic book relationship dream, and I was dating this girl and like all my exes showed up. And they were like trying to like keep us apart, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh no, this is like the Sinister Six from Spider-Man. Like where all of Spider-Man's villains team up and like try to take him out. And they're like, no, we're the Avengers. We're here to save her. And I was like, oh. I was like,
that's a good plot twist.
Like I'm the bad guy. Okay.
No, what's funny is my friend Mickey Maud, who's a performer, he just tweeted this morning. Had this really weird dream last night that the way that in order to get out of the industry you had to fuck everybody that you'd done a scene with in reverse order.
Oh shit.
And I was like, and everyone was like, fuck. Like, because the trope is as you get on in your career, you get less and less discriminating and you do more ridiculous shit. So it's like the idea is like in reverse order. Now you have to go like the most extreme shit with the worst people. like all the way back to the beginning.
That's too funny. Oh man, like I've actually been recording us here.
Great, you can keep all of it in if you like.
I don't feel like any of us. I don't think I said anything.
No, we can keep all that you like.
Yeah, that's good. How did? I can't remember how we met.
We met because I was telling the story last night to Greg. I was like, they didn't have a fucking comedy scene when I was there.
Yeah.
And then I was on Facebook, which I'm never on, but I was there promoting something, and I saw Ty Rivera was in Fresno.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, the fuck? Mm-hmm. There's a scene in Fresno and no one invited me. No one knows who I am. I fucking came from that town. No one else gives a shit about Fresno.
Yeah.
And so then I messaged you. hey, what's the deal with that show
right.
you're doing, and why haven't I been booked on it? And you were very gracious about it. And he sent me to Danny Minch, who I sent all my stuff to, and then as a joke he was like, oh, I meant links to comedy, and I took it personally because I didn't know him, so I didn't know he was joking. And what he couldn't have known is that I just spent like 6 months on tour across the country dealing with bookers going, I jack off to you all the time.
Fuck, that
sucks. Because this is just before the Me Too thing. So I mean, people just really, I mean, now but I did have an incident recently, actually, and it happened in front of it was an older comic, a black guy, Byron something.
Oh, okay.
We were at a he didn't do anything, but we were at a show that I was booked on. Sam Tripoli had booked me on the show, and Sam Tripoli wasn't there, and the host was there.
Yeah.
And he went up to Byron and he was like, I think that's who it was. He was like, here's what time you're going up, here's your order in the set, typical shit.
Yeah.
And then I said, hey, I'm Sovereign Syre, I'm on the show. I was just wondering what time I'm going up, what order I'm going up, how much time I've got. And he said, oh, nice try, sweetheart. Oh, and first I thought he was joking. I was laughing like, ha, ha, ha. Yeah. And then he like touches my lower back. He's like, I love cat eyes, though. You're such a pretty girl. All this stuff. And I'm just sitting there like in a slow burn.
Yeah.
At first I'm like, is he joking? I can't tell. The guy's looking at me. The older guy, the older gentleman. The guy walks away. I text Sam, hey, dude. Yeah. Did you tell them I'm on the show? So Sam shows up, and I'm like, this happened. And Sam was awesome about it. He was like, who was he? Point him out.
Oh, fuck.
That guy's like, I got it handled. The guy came up to me afterwards, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I bet you are now, motherfucker.
But Jesus Christ. That's a new thing in stand-up. Even when I came in, like, I had like a bit of an armor about me because I can't imagine what regular lady comics go through. Yeah. But to be a lady comic that also is a porn star people were just really, part of it is the nature of the job. You're so used to people doing that you're kind of whatever. But at the same time, you're so used to people doing that, and part of the reason you're doing stand-up is to kind of get out of an environment in which you're expected to always be sexual.
That's rough. I mean, I can't. I mean, it's obvious. Yeah, clearly you have like an extra layer of shit to deal with. I remember, like, I don't know, like, I remember, like, just pre-Me Too. Like, I mean, not much before. I remember having that weird epiphany. Like, I was talking to one of my friends. I'm not gonna name her, but she was just going through it, and she just showed me like some of the text messages she had gotten from promoters and like other comics, and like it was weird. Like I felt like I had a blindfold on. Like I wasn't even aware I was wearing, and I just got so mad. I was so mad, and she's like. And I was like, what do we do? What do we do? Like, and she's like, well, nothing. Like, and I'm like, no, we have to do something. Like, we have to. And she's like, and so like, I kind of like overreached, and I sort of went on this, like, I was like weirdly paranoid about like every interaction I saw between like a male and a female comic, and it was just like, it was something where I felt like very helpless, like, because but then the CK thing happened, and and it was a weird like bomb dropped in the community, and like that.
Oh, he was the first person I was warned about when I started. 3 years. It's 2.5 years ago. But I mean, I was talking to Greg Edwards to him about this last night, that it's weird. Male comics definitely hit on me more and do more of that kind of stuff because of the porn, but they're also far more likely to give me opportunities.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not been that hard for me because I feel like guy comics, they acknowledge the porn, but they're kind of like, I like one of the guys.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, sucking a lot of dick back there, huh? Like, hard day at work. And I take it in that spirit of it's not meant to be mean, and it's not meant to be dismissive. I can always tell when a male comic is doing it to be dismissive, and that has happened to me maybe once. I was telling Greg this story. that I was up on stage. A comic looked up my porn while I was on stage.
God.
And then when I got off stage, showed me what he had been watching while I was on stage. Jeez. And luckily the booker for that show was like, you're fucking out of here.
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only time that
only
time that something happened anyway, the guy booking the show was so on it.
Yeah,
just immediately was like, and just came in and was like, who the fuck does that?
Yeah.
Whether you were a comic or not.
Have some fucking respect.
Yeah, just who the fuck does that?
Jesus
Why
Christ.
are you showing anyone what you're jacking off to? And but girl comics, and I say girl comics because I've had a lot of solidarity from older female comics, and it's like Jackie Cation or Lori Kilmartin. If you listen to their show, because they've been through all of it, and they've come out the other side understanding that, you know, at the end of the day, like, you need to protect each other and be looking out for each other, no matter how you personally feel about people's politics or their decisions. And in porn, you get that same solidarity, that same sisterhood of like, listen, we're all we've got. So the world is going to be, I mean, like the shaming that you know, the stigma and the criticism that you face is relentless. If you go online and look at any girl's comments, that shit is fucking relentless. So, but younger female comics or female comics my own age are the ones that I've gotten the most like blowback from, and they don't come out and say it, but this kind of iciness, and I don't know if it's just insecurity or if it's they've, you know, and I understand that for them, they're like, this is hard enough, and then you're going to come in here with your fucking tits out. And, I get it. Like, I get why.
Sure.
Totally, I understand why that would be hard to deal with.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I was talking, I don't know if you know Katie French, but she talked a lot about that. Like, I mean, she got this reputation. She explained it to me. She had this like ice queen reputation, and she was like, "Why?" She's like, "I'm a nice person."
Katie French, that name is so familiar.
She's so funny. She is.
Is she local?
No, she's out of L.A. Yeah, she came up and headlined
from here?
No, she started in OC.
That name is so familiar, but I know I have never seen her do stand-up.
She's so funny, but she was like, I don't know how I got this reputation because like I'm a nice person, you know, but then she was thinking back. She's like, she's like, I know how it happened. Like I had to sit through open mics with 30 male comics going up before me talking shit on women, and like by the time I get on stage, I'm just so fucking angry. And so like, you know, like she has to, like her open mic sets early on would just become like her venting about all the bullshit she was forced to listen to in the first 30 comics that went up before her. And she's like, and she kind of became like self-aware, and at that point she kind of started to let it like roll off her back a little bit more because it was literally affecting her performance as a comedian. But it's
I've been lucky. I mean, men are very intimidated by porn stars, so I've been lucky in that my experience was as soon as people found out in the open mic scene that I was a porn star, it was awesome because I would show up at the open mic and whoever didn't know would stand up and start doing his porn joke, and you'd see everyone else in the room, you'd see them just like getting like just so giddy, and I would have hosts put me up after that guy, like move me up the list basically, just so that everyone could watch me go, oh my god, that's so funny. And then I would just start talking about porn, you know.
That's funny.
So for me, it was like, I lucked out in that experience because whenever guys would go up and start making their porn jokes or their masturbation jokes, or fucking porn stars, their dad didn't love them. And then I get to walk up and be, cool, let's take a look at that. Let's dissect that, shall we?
Let's dig in. Let's unpack that a little bit.
And because, you know, I have like a Stuart Lee kind of like, I'll eviscerate you pretty quickly.
And that was actually, you know, I don't know if I've ever asked you, but like, what was like that? What was the catalyst for that change, that moving from porn into comedy? I mean, had you always been like a comedy nerd growing up?
I was definitely a comedy nerd growing up. It's a Sad Dad podcast. So let's start talking about sad dads.
Let's do it.
So I have two fathers, and my natural father Johnny A, who I had on my podcast. It's actually one of the most beloved episodes I have.
That's amazing. I actually did just a quick sidebar. Like I did a Father's Day special where my dad was the guest, and that was my highest downloaded episode.
Yeah, like people really liked mine. I hadn't seen my dad. We had been estranged since I was in my teens, and so I hadn't seen him in forever.
Whoa.
And I showed up on his doorstep on Thanksgiving. And I was like, with my mics, and was like,
holy shit, was this last Thanksgiving?
It's like 2 Thanksgivings ago.
Whoa.
I was like, let's do it. And he said he cried on the mics. He really made himself vulnerable and available.
Shit. I don't think I have not. I'm going to listen to that today. Holy shit, that sounds amazing.
But so I was adopted, but I had a relationship with my natural father my whole life. He was someone I would go see for 2 weeks out of every summer. You know what I mean? Just like barely any just enough contact, and most of that was spent with babysitters.
Sure.
But he was a huge comedy person. He loved Richard Pryor, Bill Hicks, all this kind of stuff. So he was always watching, listening to that. And so a way that I got close with my dad was I would memorize those stand-up routines and I would perform them for him. And so he was so delighted. I mean, because imagine, a 6-year-old little blonde girl doing Bill Hicks, start to finish.
That sounds amazing.
I didn't realize why he was laughing, and now looking back, I'm like, oh my god, that must have been fucking gold.
Yeah, like why it really makes sure cell phones were around back then. Holy shit.
So it started there, and so Bill Hicks, obviously, that was someone that my dad loved, so that was someone that I immediately ingested and knew all the routines for. And he was the one, he could afford cable because he was never taking care of kids. So then when I go, it was like the 2 weeks there was like the Comedy Central channel, like they had these half-hour stand-up specials and shit like that. So I was really drawn to it. But being in Fresno, there was no scene here.
Yeah, right.
So I didn't, and I came from, my family's like recovering heroin addicts that worked like very blue collar jobs, and some were frustrated artists, but no one had any idea how Hollywood worked or how entertainment worked. So I'm jealous now of comics that are like, I just started doing open mics. I'm like, how did you even know that was a process? I wanted to do stand-up, but I didn't even know how the fuck you did it. Yeah. And even in college, there wasn't even, like, the open mics that we had at college were still people doing poems and singing songs. Guitar, like no one was coming in and doing stand-up. Yeah. So I just didn't know how it was done. Yeah. And so even when I was doing porn and stuff, I would always watch, my favorite things were... I loved Stuart Lee. I used to watch Charlie Brooker, Newswipe. Stuff like that. I would go deep on YouTube and in the internet. I loved Kids in the Hall. I mean, it was off the air by the time I saw it. But I even ended up interviewing Dave Foley on my podcast and was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Cool. It's surreal. But so I was and I was always having ideas for stuff I wanted to write. But, at the time, porn was paying the bills. And I think I had been doing porn about 2 years, and I was known as the smart porn star. Like that was kind of my shtick, I guess. And it was because Twitter's kind of the best thing that happened to porn stars because it really humanized us, and it gave us this way to personally brand ourselves. In a way that, because Facebook would kick you off and stuff like that, but Twitter came along and you could be on, like, it wouldn't kick you off. Like you could be a porn star and they would. And so it gave a lot of us a chance to actually connect with our fans in a way where we could show our real personalities.
I didn't really think about that with Twitter. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So and without prompting, from the minute I got on Twitter, I was using it to write jokes. Because I didn't want to write, here's what I had for breakfast. Sure. So the minute I got on Twitter, I was just using it to write jokes. And I was writing very biting, satirical jokes. And so I was known as that person. Right. And that was even before. That was even how I got scouted into porn. Was a porn director was like, "Is the same girl making these jokes about Michel Foucault? Is the same girl that's in the Avatar?" I was like, "Yep, that's me." And she was like, "Toot the sweet bitch, get over here." I did that. So I was doing porn for about 2 years. The Twitter was kind of my bread and butter. And around the same time, I was tweeting. I was talking to Greg Edwards about this because Greg Edwards is on a show on his channel Wisecrack, and he does a show Thug Notes.
Thug Notes is so fucking funny.
And I was telling him, I was like, my whole career has been very blessed by sort of randomness, just meeting Mark randomly, and then he sort of plucked me up and has just kind of constantly been this like guiding
That's Mark
force.
Maron for the listening audience.
Yeah, like kind of just, but random. You know what I mean? Dave Foley followed me at random on Twitter and then was on my podcast, and then I ended up going to Toronto and meeting the kids in the hall and all this kind of stuff.
So
cool. And so I had tweeted randomly at this Thug Notes show, and they hit me back, hey, do you want to, we're looking for female talent to do another show. You want to write something for us? Oh, okay. And so then I ended up writing Boss Bitches of History for them.
Yeah.
And through that, I was like, maybe I should do give this like, that was a thing that put the bug in my ear to maybe start doing something besides porn.
So Greg was kind of at the sort of at the beginning.
He was my first podcast guest.
That's right. You mentioned that last night. Holy shit! That's so cool.
I started writing for Wisecrack, and I remember going to Marin and how do you write a show? And he had a show at the time. He's like, I remember sitting in his dining room, and he's like, here's how you sort of sketch out like an arc for a season, and it's just giving us it's very rudimentary.
But that's all you need at the beginning.
And I got that show, and it took forever to produce. But in the meantime, I started to get interested in this idea of having a voice, and so I got a podcast. And I didn't want to interview porn people. I wanted very actively to sort of separate myself from porn. So I was like, I'll interview comedians about serious topics. And I didn't have enough clout to really get big comedians, but I could get a lot of sort of mid-level.
Yeah. Especially living in Los Angeles.
Yeah. And so I started, Greg was one of the first people I reached out to. Do you want to come do the show? Because we were on the same network. And so he came and did it, and I started getting a bunch of people that now have gone on to things like Will Hunter, who wrote the Carmichael Show. I these people that went on to do other. I had Kyle Kinane on. I had Ian Carmel on. I had
such a big Kyle Kinane fan.
Yeah. Oh, he's the best. I had Bobcat Goldthwait on. I had Sean Baker, who did Tangerine and now the Florida Project.
Yeah.
Patrick Bryce, who did Creep 2. Well, he was on. I had all these people on.
The Creep movies are great, and you've had Jim Norton on too.
I've had Jim Norton on. I've had. I think the only person I haven't had on is probably Mark, because I'm I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. That's funny.
But so I was doing that, and it was a matter of time. And when Melanie Vesey was someone I had on, and she said, why don't you do stand-up?
Oh, I didn't really. So you started the podcast before you started stand-up.
So I was doing that I've been doing this podcast about a year, and Melanie said, why don't you try stand-up? And I was dating a comedian at the time, this guy named Baron Vaughn, who's on Grace and Frankie now.
Oh, cool.
Or he was on Grace and Frankie at the time. But I had this story about falling in love with a con man when I first moved to New York to be a model. And he got me my first gig, which was a storytelling show. And I did the story. I had 15 minutes. I took 27.
Oh, jeez.
But the story was so compelling that they didn't stop me.
Sure.
And I got off stage, and they were like, none of us wanted to go out there and stop. It was like we were all we wanted to know what happened to this poor girl.
Yeah.
And it was like a week after that, was around Thanksgiving, and then the next day, Melanie Vesey called me and said, I'm going to book you at the Comedy Store. What do you want to do? 5 minutes? And she gave me 4 dates. There were 4 Sundays in December, so I picked December 20th because it was the furthest away. Did a show, did 5 minutes original stand-up, and then she had me back the next week. And then I've been doing it 2.5 years, and in that time I've done over 300 shows. I've traveled the country. I've booked my own shows, booked my own theaters and sold my own tickets.
That's so cool.
Done shows up and on the West Coast. I've featured for Mark Maron now. It's been crazy.
I went and saw you at Meltdown, and that was such a fun show. Do you remember that show?
That show was crazy because Mark was supposed to headline it.
Yeah.
Then he had to bow out. Then Margaret Cho was supposed to headline it. Then she had to bow out. Then I ended up getting Jackie Cation, and it's I just ended up headlining it.
But Jackie was so. Oh man,
God. But it's and that show ended up making a lot of money.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that was so fun. I remember that was so funny. I drove down there, and I ran.
It's a shitty way to do comedy, by the way. Renting out your own theaters and then trying to sell your own tickets. I broke even on that tour. Just being Aaliyah Janine, but we broke even.
She's great. Yeah. But I remember I drove all the way down there, and I ran into Sparkle, and Sparkle's like, "Hey, Dave. What are you doing here?" I was like, "I'm here for the show." She's like, "Oh, Sovereign's performing tonight." I was like, "That's exactly why I'm here." She's like that was just a weird coincidence.
That was such a weird night. Yeah. I remember her boss came to see that show. And, yeah. That was really funny. She would always have me, like, whenever her boss was giving her a hard time, she'd have me come to her work and just, like, walk around and say hi. And then the next day she'd get a raise. Or she'd get days off.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Like, the power of the pussy compels you. Yeah.
So you grew up here in Fresno.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And like because we actually have, I mean, we have mutual friends. We have quite a few, I think we have like half a dozen mutual friends.
And not hard to do in Fresno. To do in Fresno.
And like these are people that I've only known you for like a year and a half, 2 years, and these people have known you like growing up, and they're like, "Oh, you know that Sovereign girl?" And I was like, "Yeah, she's cool." And they're like, "Yeah, she was wild." And I was like,
I'm kind of curious to know what my reputation was.
I mean, I don't know. Nobody's ever really said anything bad about you. It's always just like, "Oh, she's crazy." like I mean, like you and. I don't know. I mean, were you kind of is that growing up? Were you kind of a wild child?
I was a wild child.
Yeah.
To the extreme. I was that typical kind of weird baby genius drug addict kind of person where I
tortured soul type. Like,
I mean, I was super bright and really creative and very charismatic. Always very popular. As soon as I turned 15, I was just like wildly popular. Went to performing arts high school. Started college when I was 16, but also had severe demons. I like to drink a lot. Had a lot of drug problems. Yeah. Was just kind of emotionally I don't want to say I was emotionally unstable because I never went crazy and hurt anyone or. You know what I mean? I wasn't unstable in that kind of way where it was like I was slashing people's tires and doing weird shit like that. I definitely wasn't that kind of unstable. But I tend to, like all of my demons, I tend to keep very internal. But yeah, like I definitely flew off the rails because I was so smart. It was like no one could contain me. So I could reason my way out of any kind of intervention. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I
was like, well, sir, like I could put on my suit and be like, if it please the court.
Well, and that's what I've heard too.
I always do that.
That's what I've heard too. Is you were very like a very persuasive person. Like you could like get people to do things.
Oh
and I mean that's one thing I've heard about you too. And so like where so
yes, I was very if it pleased the court.
Yeah.
Sir, when we went to my first time driving a stick shift, we stole a car when we were in Santa Cruz joyriding. If it pleased the court,
you know, it reminds me of
we put it back. That tended to be my sort of like.
Did you watch Westworld?
I was in it.
Were you in Westworld?
Yes.
Shut up.
No, I was in Westworld.
What?
Yeah.
When were you in Westworld?
I was a featured background extra. I was like a
what?
beautiful host.
Beautiful host in one of the brothel scenes or something? No shit.
Yeah.
Wow, that's like you
yeah, people call me like I saw your ass. I would know it anywhere.
That's so funny. There was another guy I had staying with me that was Isaac Allen was a featured extra too. That's so funny. I didn't realize that.
Funny.
You're kind of like you remind me of like Maeve in that like you can just convince people around you to like just do the wildest stuff. That's funny. That's a great.
Well, I mean, I was definitely very wild. I don't think I was never dangerous, but I was definitely very wild. Sure. And I think I was always very kind of perplexed by boundaries. Why aren't we allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Why isn't that okay?
Oh my God.
So I was someone that when I ran into Miss Kitty yesterday, she said, you know, and she's one of the few people that I've ran into from my past. That said, you know, when I found out about the porn, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense. And I was like, you're the first person to say that.
She is so like I go to her with my problems. Like she is so sweet. Yeah. She's brilliant. So smart and she's just the most supportive human being on the planet.
But I mean, I was the kind of person, if I was at a party, everyone would end up naked running around. I never understood what the problem with nudity was. I was always very, very sexual. I was very open with that.
Yeah.
I was always very quick to argue, like if it pleased the court. I was very much me. A lot of people thought I was going to become an attorney.
Yeah.
I was like never afraid to challenge authority. Because I knew I was generally smarter than anyone that was making the rules.
Sure.
So I was always eager if I could see an in, and that was like never show me weakness. If I could see an in, if there was any place that this could be debated,
right.
And that led into my relationships later in life. I don't want to argue with you because the minute I'm like, I know because I win. I get
it. Well, and so like, we'll circle back around to because I've known you for a while, but I've never had you like run through it with me as far as the biological dad and then the adopted dad. Like, what happened?
My parents split. My parents were both heroin addicts, and there's a lot of mythos around. Every family has its like weird mythos about. So I don't know how much is true and how much isn't. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Over a lifetime of mythologizing, because the family gets its mythology.
I get that, yeah.
My mom was 17 and ran away from home, and she had been a heroin addict since she was 13.
Oh my God.
And she dropped acid and had a vision that Jesus Christ was in San Quentin Penitentiary. She hitchhiked across the country. Went to go visit him, couldn't get in, obviously. At the same time, my dad was incarcerated in San Quentin for armed robbery.
Oh my goodness.
And strong arming. And they both ended up he got released around the same time that she got turned away. And they both ended up in Reno.
Wow.
And she was there working as a blackjack dealer, and he went in and asked her for a job application as a short order cook. He had just gotten out of jail.
Yeah.
They ended up, she said, the minute I looked in his eyes, I knew that he knew where to get heroin. And I was in love. And
that's
so
funny.
they were shooting heroin together, and he wanted to move in together. And she said, I can't move in with anyone I'm not married to. So they went to Woolworth's, got some $2 brass rings, and got married.
Wow.
Stayed married for 9 years.
Wow.
And they moved all over Northern California and Oregon because my mom was always trying to get clean through like weird ways to get clean.
And not to derail your story too much, but your mom's a pretty fucking cool lady.
It's like fucking amazing.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that. But yeah, so they because you've told me about your mom and she's pretty rad.
She's pretty sick.
But so they ended up, and I'm sorry, I interrupted. So they get married.
Yeah, and she's always like these weird schemes to get clean. And the problem was she'd always like want to move someplace where it'd be really hard to get dope, and then all of her time would be consumed with like trying to get dope. So
just made her a better dope addict.
they were staying with on a Faith Healers compound in Ashland, Oregon, in the mountains, and these nuns would always come try to save everyone. And my dad was in and out of jail, and he was like trying to break out of jail, and he fell and just climbing out a window and fell into a coma, and no one could find her, and these nuns had to come find her at this compound and be like, your husband's in the hospital, he might die. And like
at what point in all this madness do you come along?
She was pregnant with me, and so he was in he got sent to recovery, and there was a lady that decided if you went to recovery who did jail time for drug offenses, and she was in love with my dad, and she said she would send him to recovery, but he had to divorce my mom, and the prosecutor said you can't make people get divorced. And my dad was very romantic and was like, I'll never divorce Jackie. And so they ended up going to separate rehabs. She went down to Firebaugh.
Oh yeah.
To stay with his parents, who had come over, like that part of the family had come over in the Oklahoma Dust Bowl.
Wow,
and it was like super country.
I have family
Soups
that did
country.
the same. Yeah.
Oh, like Otis and Vi.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Soups country.
Yeah. I know Fireball.
I was born there. It was a double wide trailer. Being chased by muskrats and peacocks, and like surrounded by farm workers. My mom would try to get clean by wrapping herself in saran wrap and going out in the fields and working in the fields until she passed out.
Oh, geez.
She thought she was going to sweat the heroin out. She's an amazing lady. Fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. So was I wild? Yeah. Well, comparatively, or
yeah, I guess.
I was never quite so unhinged.
Yeah. That's
I was never harvesting my own sweat for meth or anything. So I did okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, born into that situation. So they got divorced. They were. I have no living memory of my parents being together. So they were always separate. And then when I was around 3 or 4, my mom got with my dad, my dad that raised me. And so I was raised out here in Fresno by him, but I would still go see my natural father, like I said, like 2 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
Up until I was about 12 or 13. And then I was like, do I have to like keep fucking doing this shit?
Yeah, right.
And then, I mean, it's just my natural father was just never really into me, you know, like he was really into I had an older brother that ran away from home when I was 14 and him and my dad were close, you know, like they, but him and my natural father were close. Him and my adoptive father never connected with each other.
Sure.
My mom left my adoptive father when I was about 9, but me and him still kept in contact. He used to drive me to school every morning and take me to breakfast and drive me to school every morning, all through like junior high and high school.
That is great that you maintain that like relationship.
Yeah, and when I was in college, he was the one that paid for all my books and all this kind of stuff. And when I was like totally drug addicted and tweaking out of my head, it was his house that I was staying in. And he would fucking like nail the door shut so I couldn't get out and fucking score dope.
Well, he doesn't have any natural kids of his own, right?
No.
Yeah, I mean you were it for him,
and as his baby.
And did he grow up around here?
No, he was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh no shit! What's his story?
His mom is Native American. Like I'm assuming Hopi. He's from a generation that doesn't know a lot. You know what I mean? It's like that was. But I remember the first time I saw pictures of her, I thought she was a black woman.
Really?
You know, like I was like, who's that? He's like, that's my mom. Wow. Like, oh, okay. His dad worked for like Lear or Boeing or some shit like that. It was like a guy he grew up all around like Kansas, Wichita, just like super Midwestern.
Yeah.
He helped, like, my first car was a B18 sport model Volvo, like from 1968 that I rebuilt the engine on because he taught me how to do it. Like super like that. He's like, so I learned how to I changed the tire, changed the oil, like rebuild the engine of a car, how to fist fight, how to play soccer, how to play basketball. He took me to all my dance classes and ballet. He made me jog like 4 miles a day every day from the time I was 12, 13 years old.
Wow.
Like just like taught me not like if you can't afford it cash in hand, you can't afford it.
Wow.
Didn't get a credit card until like 3 years ago because I needed it to, when I started touring and traveling, I needed it to rent hotel rooms and reserve rental cars. And so I was like, oh shit, I have to get a credit card. Because he had taught me to always, cash in hand. Like if you can't afford to pay for it.
I mean, it's sensible.
But just like a super it's not very practical in today's culture, but he's like this very sensible kind of Midwestern values. Yeah.
And did he ever after your mom? Did he ever remarry? Or
no.
Was your mom like the love of his life?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
Does he ever talk about it?
He said afterwards. He said I couldn't do it again. He said he couldn't divide his life again because he had been married before.
Oh, okay.
And he had been married, divorced, and then met my mom. And he said that after that breakup, he said it's too traumatic to divide your life.
Sure.
To cut it in half.
Yeah.
When it's
over.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
And so he had kind of.
Yeah.
He had gotten He was a coach, so he was surrounded by kids all the time, and he just kind of made a family out of his job.
Oh yeah. What did he coach?
Orange Center.
Shut up! That's my elementary school. I went to Orange. Who's your dad? Is his name Pat? Oh my God! I know I know him. Yes. Oh my God! He was. Are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
He was. Yeah. He was like Pat. Like did everything. Like he did everything. Like he was the coach of like all the soccer teams. Like he was the guy that fixed shit. He was the bus driver. Like whatever they needed done. Like he was there.
Could do
Holy shit, that's your dad?
Yeah.
What the fuck, Sovereign? That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
An amazing human being, right?
I could tell you about your dad because I know him. That's amazing. Holy shit, I can't believe that just happened like on the show. Pat, yeah, I don't want to say his last name if he doesn't want me to, but holy shit, yeah, he's a great fucking dude. Yeah, he like I just remember like all of our me and all my friends just being shitheads, and like he would be like, "You guys are being shitheads." stop it. Like he's such a cool dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just like it's like such an athlete.
Yeah.
And just really.
Yeah, and he's an artist, isn't he? Like he
very, very talented artist.
Yeah, like I remember
he has so many pictures of me all over the house. Like, like paintings and drawings.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff
Like I remember, like we had like school issued like folders. Like our mascot was the Tigers, and it was. This...
Oh, I know, because he taught me how to silk screen. Because I would be silk screening your fucking jerseys.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I cannot fucking believe that that's your dad. And
yeah.
I grew up as my elementary school.
I mean, that's the thing is having a parent like that is super charismatic. He was everyone's dad. To this day, we were just at breakfast. People, you know, it's weird to see grown people just like, oh my God, Pat. We can't go anywhere without at least 2 or 3 people coming up to us and it's hard for him to remember, but it's like to that person, he was a formative person in their life.
Yeah, he was really such a cool dude. Yeah. Holy shit, that's amazing.
Not a sad dad.
No. And that's never my intention. Is that I call it sad dad because that's like my anti mantra. Like when I feel like I'm being low effort as a parent, I'm like, don't be a sad dad, dude. And so and that's something I've said to myself for years. And so I just named the show that. It is a little bit misleading though. I should probably explain that.
No. You don't have to say anything. I like the term sad dad.
And it's so. Oh man, you just blew my fucking mind. I should ask you more questions,
cool.
But he's a great fucking dude.
Yeah,
Pat
is. Yeah, so he is.
Is he still at that elementary school, or is he?
Oh gosh, no.
No.
He's been retired for quite some time.
Oh, has
now.
he really?
Yeah, but he built my childhood bedroom. He built the house that he lives in now.
Wow.
Which is now in my name. Like I own that house now.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's a really complicated relationship, and I mean it's a relationship about love, but it's in terms of he's probably the person that just like was there for me the most, and was able to love me in a way that I think the thing that made me different is even last night talking to Miss Kitty, it was this weird sense where I could sense that she wanted something, like some connection.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, this is the part where I'm a Vulcan, and I don't know how to reciprocate or whatever. And Pat was always able to. He was very tacit. He never needed me to reciprocate love in this way that was really demonstrative.
Sure.
And it was funny today. We were talking because Coco, my dog, just went blind with diabetes.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. And so I have her with me at the house while I'm staying. And so we got up this morning. We were at breakfast this morning. And he turned to me and he said, you know, it is really good that she's sick like this because what it brings out of you is this tenderness that you have inside you because you have to always be taking care of her, and it's been nice to watch you just constantly taking care of this dog.
God, what a beautiful insight. Yeah, that's wow.
And I was like, yeah, I've been having that feeling with her over the past 6 months as this thing has happened.
Yeah.
And not that she's a function of me, because I'm not that narcissistic.
Sure.
But my takeaway from this dog suddenly that I've had since she was a baby, and kind of I've had her since I started porn. So there's something very symbolic about love and being loved and feeling lovable and shame and all kinds of things wrapped up in this dog.
Right.
And all these things that this dog has seen. And that, you know, I had one job and I fucked on this. But I was telling people, I was like, I feel like her getting sick with diabetes and going blind and all of this stuff was the universe's way of telling me to kind of slow the fuck down and pay attention to sort of my domestic environment and what's going on around me and what I'm doing to nurture like the core of who I am before I'm even going out into the world. Yeah. And so when he said that this morning, I was just thinking that, you know, because it's pulled out of me this kind of, but he was like, it's nice to see that. He's like, because I know that's in you all the time.
Right.
But it's nice to see that it's forcing it to come out of you because you have to be vulnerable and available to this dog at all times.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. And it seems too like the dog's life is the dog's life in a way is almost like traced the arc of your career too. You know, like I mean now now it seems like you're being very, very like systematic and you're planning and you're being very more like a tactician as far as like how you move forward with
Oh, you looking for a spoon? That drawer, like right there. And so yeah, I mean the care and the love and the attention that you're giving to the dog is in a lot of ways how you seem to be treating your career right now. And,
Yes.
And I think that's great. I mean, I'm sure you like came in hot like a really excited puppy, when you first started out, and now that you're a little older and you're taking more time and
I did. I think that when I came in, much like you heard about my reputation, I was wild. And I was like, this is just an adventure.
Yeah.
I'm this bohemian wild child.
Oh.
And this is my adventure. And I was very much an activist. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm super educated and smart, and I think it should be fine for me to do this. And I'm going to prove it by like really putting my money where my mouth is. I'm going to jump in. I didn't seek out porn, but when porn knocked on my door, I was like, well, if I really live by my principles, why should I say no?
Yeah, right.
If I truly live by those principles, then I should be able to do whatever I want.
Totally. Yeah.
And I mean, I wanted money and I wanted someone was going, I'm going to give you money and fame for being exactly who the fuck you are. Oh, and you're going to get this platform to espouse all this feminist rhetoric that you have in your head.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to do it. But I didn't have any kind of plan or a way to leverage it. And then even when I did stand up, it's like I've kind of just rolled with it.
Yeah.
And more recently I've stepped back and now that I'm a grown up, I'm going, okay, instead of trying to separate the porn and the comedy and all this stuff, wanting to merge it together, sort of like that new special Nanette.
Oh yeah.
I watched that and I went, that's what I should be doing, is working on this hour that's really more about. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking of even calling it Coco. That's sort of that's sort of tracking and using Coco as this marker.
That's fucking brilliant.
To talk about, how I got in, like where I came from, because I think you've heard the New Zealand bit, which alludes to when you're saying like you'd heard I was crazy. Because as I say in that bit, everything I say in that story is true.
Right.
That all happened.
Yeah.
The only joke is New Zealand. But all of that happened. The judge, the everything. Everything in that story happened.
Yeah.
And so starting it there, like this is where I came from, kind of talking about the dog, talking about when I first got into porn and how, like what that was and the story about falling in love with the con artist, and then ending it sort of how it is now. But so now I'm more focused. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this special that's also a one-woman show that instead of trying to separate the porn and the comedy, pulls them together. And so I think I finally am at this point in my life where I'm going, oh, this is where it was all headed. It was all headed to someone like me doing this job so that I can be a voice for this whole population of people that really is stigmatized. I mean, we're so marginalized that a lot of us, I've had my bank accounts closed. Like we can't even keep bank accounts.
Wow.
And so you're looking at, and the thing is, most women have done some form of sex work in their life at some point in time.
Sure.
Whether it was public facing or not is a whole nother story. But when you're looking at a group, a population that's that openly stigmatized,
sure.
I'm finally at the point going, oh, maybe all of this was leading up to someone that like me that has the comic chops and that has the education and that has the experience of having truly lived and been in that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all been about being able to come together so that I can present something that might be palatable to the average person and get them to see sex workers in a way. Not to say I'm the only person that can do that. Obviously, there are tons of women that have been like laying serious groundwork to enable the sex workers' rights movement and stuff like that. But I'm finally at a point going like, oh, maybe this is where things were headed, and instead of trying to divide these things constantly and rob Peter to pay Paul or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and I was talking to Greg Edwards about that. Like, I was promoting my porn, and I was doing. He's like, "Fuck, they're not paying. Like, promote your porn and your stand up on your Twitter. Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, fuck them. Because I think you're gonna filter out. I mean, there is a fan base there. I mean, if anybody is gonna get all clutching their pearls about you doing porn, probably shouldn't be your comedy fan anyway.
And I think it was more like, well, what fellow comics see me promoting porn on my Twitter again? Is it gonna make them? Yeah. And he was like, well, are they paying your bills?
Yeah,
like, how many bills do they pay?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah, I feel like we all kind of. I mean, because we're all social creatures in a way. We just
Well, yeah,
want
it's a
we want our
community, and
peers to
yeah.
think we're cool. So yeah, but I think at the same time too, I mean, people like Greg are the types of friends you should have.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and I was also, I mean, part of the reason I came up here because I was feeling some depression around, what does it all mean, and how long am I going to do this? Because I was talking to my psychiatrist, and he's like, the next 2 years for you are critical, and I was like, I understand that because I've been in for like 7 years, and that's a really long time to be in sex work, and there's a natural, and he was referring to their natural arcs in life, and things, and it's like. He's like, you've been doing this for 7 years. The next 2 years are critical because people tend to do things in cycles. Yeah. And this is like a cycle. I don't know if you've ever heard of like Return of Saturn.
I mean, I've heard the phrase, but I don't know.
It's like this idea that life goes in cycles of like 2 years, 7 years, and then something like 28 years or 30 years.
Whoa!
And so like these cycles that kind of, or 12 years, and then like there are cycles that our life, like we are in school from K through 12, like that our life kind of. We turn 18, we become an adult. When someone nears 30, that it's like that these are like these natural kind of in relationships. We around 2 year mark is when people decide to get married or break up.
Right.
7 year itch, right?
Yeah.
Bachelor's programs are 4 years. To get a graduate degree, 7 to 8 years. That. And so I'm coming to an end in the cycle of adult. And at that point I'll be at the 4 year mark of doing stand up, which is the point when you really start to kind of go that way. So this next 2 years of that transitory time, and so there are times when I feel very anchorless, because I really am between two worlds. Well, and I'm not quite good enough at stand up to be just doing that.
Yeah, and you have this weird thing where you have a comedy arc and your porn arc are like kind of, they seem to be like matching each other, lining up in a weird way too. And so I think you've got a unique voice and a unique perspective, and you'd be silly not to take advantage of that because nobody's really doing that on a big stage. I mean, I've heard candid interviews with adult film stars and stuff, but never really. I guess never really as thoughtful and never from the perspective that you have. So yeah, I mean, do it, girl. Like yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what what a guy from Fresno, what his opinion means to you. But I mean,
it means a lot because this is where I came from. I'm making art for people like me, and no matter how smart or glamorous or whatever, I mean, because a big part of my thing is, I started college at 16, or I was the face in New York City. As much as all of those things are true, I was also a kid from Fresno, that came from the same dirt fucking floor.
From the dirt,
most of us have dirt floors and swamp coolers still. I mean, that's a lot of us. And I grew up, I found the other day, the faucet head of the faucet they used to screw on the hose that I used to shower with. That's how poor we were.
Wow.
There's still a wood stove we used to cook our food on the wood stove. That was the only.
Wow.
And so, that's also right. Like, my thing is trying to create something that also someone that comes from that same environment can go like, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, we hit the mark. I always like to ask at the end, I call them dadicdotes. Dadicdotes. Do you have like a favorite story about one or both of your dads?
I was in a car with my adoptive father, Pat. And we were driving, and there was this big billboard, and it was like, fathers, know your rights. And I was a lawyer that was a parental rights attorney, divorce attorney. Fathers, know your rights. And my dad turned to me and he said, referencing my other father, some men just don't know what they're missing.
Aww.
And I've always remembered that.
Jeez, you're going to make me cry a little bit. Holy shit. That's so sweet. He's such a good dude.
He's such a good dude.
He's the best.
He's watching Coco right now, and he's very worried. Should we go get her insulin? I'm like, we'll be fine.
Oh, man. Tell Sovereign, tell the people where to find you on social media.
All right, you can find most things about me at sovereignsyre.net. That's SOVEREIGN. Sovereign. SYRE Syre.net. I'm Sovereign Syre on Twitter, Sovereign_Syre on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, Sovereign Syre. I mean, it's a pretty distinctive name, so just type it in.
I'll link all it in the show notes.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I pretty much live on Twitter. That's my fucking wheelhouse. If you just want spam links to my porn and my stand-up events and my comedy interviews, then you can follow me on Facebook, and that's pretty much all I post there. I have a podcast, Observations.
It's a great podcast. I've been on it before.
Yeah, I just went on to video, so you can also find me on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
Doing video of that. I don't know if it'll last or not. I can't decide if I like it.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure yet.
I haven't checked out the video aspect of it. I check into your podcast every now and then.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm kind of in the midst of revamping it. I'm doing a project right now called Porn Star Personals.
Oh, interesting.
Where I'm interviewing porn stars and porn directors, but it's on video. But I have them start the video by doing a video personal, like a video personal dating.
Oh, that's
I just did Jackie St. James, and oh my god. So funny. That's the thing. Is like porn people are so fucking funny.
Really funny. Yeah.
They're really charismatic and they have a vulnerability that's available to them that a lot of people don't. And so if you give them the right ammunition, like they'll just blow you away.
Yeah,
they're really, you know.
Yeah, I mean, because I've listened to your episodes with adult film. I mean, your friends, and they're ton of fun.
Missy Martinez is like, get out of here, get out of town, Missy. But I'm probably going to start. Me and Susie Q. James, who's the secretary of the Adult Performer Advocacy Committee, are going to start doing a monthly storytelling show where we get comedians and sex workers.
Oh,
and so sex workers will tell their funny stories, and then we'll have comedians come in and tell their funny stories about sex work. So if they've ever had encounters with sex workers or purchased sex work or have done sex work, they can come in and tell their stories. And then sex workers come in and they tell their stories about
how funny,
about just the funniest things that have happened to them on the job. So we're gonna trying to put it together for August or September, and then if it's got some traction, then we're gonna try to make it a monthly event down in LA. That's kind of Porn Star Personals, and that are things that are sort of on the horizon that I'm trying to do. And then of course I'm putting together this hour-long show, Coco, to try to take around to like all the festivals. In the next year or two.
So that is the. I know you mentioned you were putting together a show. I didn't realize that it was the Coco concept. Holy shit! Okay, so you're much further along in that than I realized.
Well, I mean, I already had my material. I already had the New Zealand story and my election night story, and then the con man story. And I was like, I have these 3 stories that kind of are already They kind of link together in this meaningful way.
You just have to build some bridges between them.
Because I bought Coco with the con artist. When I came out here to start porn, I was like, I want a dog. Which shows you how much emotional support he was providing. But I was like, literally anything would be better than you. So
that's great. Well, you totally surprised me with coming over today. You messaged me. I literally woke up and I was like, hey, you up? I was like, yeah, you want to do a podcast? I was like, yeah. I was like, let me brush my teeth. And
I was like, why am I going to wait till next time? Like, fucking do it.
So Sovereign, thanks so much. You were a ton of fun today.
Oh, thank you.
And we're back. Sovereign Syre, everybody. She's great, right? I'm going to link her website and her Twitter in the show notes. You can check her out and follow her. And she's so funny. And oh my goodness, I'm totally blanking. I had something else I wanted to tell you guys. I told you about my toe. See, I told you about that at the top of the show. Follow me on social media, huh? That'd be cool. We've got some fun projects in the works right now. Working on a project actually with Andreas Tabuada from episode 5. I think he was episode 5. And he and I it's his project. He's just asked me to help him out with a small part of it. So excited to work with him. I'm sure you'll be hearing more about that in the next couple of months. I have to MC a roast, like a birthday roast. I'm gonna be honest, I don't like roasts. If the the birthday boy wasn't a dear friend of mine, I would not be doing this. As the host, you just get made fun of the most. And like I'm all week long, I've had these guys texting me like, "Oh, I'm gonna light you up, bro. We're gonna bring your A game," and I'm like, "Oh God, why am I doing this?" So I guess I'll let you know how that goes next week. Rate and review on iTunes if you could. That'd be great. If you could leave me those, I'll read any of your reviews on air. If you need to get a hold of me directly, you can email me at saddadpodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's it, you guys. Thanks for hanging in. This was a fun episode. I'll be back next week with Theo Manhattan. And like I said, I know I kind of threw you guys a curveball there based on what I told you last week. But I just had like a string of dudes, you know. It was just dude after I had like, because I record these sometimes weeks in advance, and it was Kevin Anderson and then John Ozale, which were great episodes, and then I've got Theo Manhattan and Nat Baymel coming up, and I was like, well, I'm gonna kind of put a woman in there just to kind of break it up. I mean, I'm a dude. I love dudes just as much as anybody, but it's good to, you know, have some variety. It's a spice of life. So, great, guys. Again, that's been our show. You've been a fantastic audience today, I assume. I mean, you made it this far, so you're pretty fucking cool, as far as I'm concerned. And I'll talk to you soon. Adios.